Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you a studio tour on my latest studio as I have just moved to Perth. So let's get started. So over here I've got a table right in the middle of the room. You can see a cat lights sitting on there, and this is where I do some of my work, and I also do some of my beading over here. Then this is where I keep all of my beads and wire and things like that. You can see I haven't quite unpacked them yet, they're all taped up still. Then here is where I keep my tools and some of my other cord and things like that. Then over here is my light box, and we'll get back to that in just a minute. So over here is my desk, and you can see this is where my computer goes, my pasta machine for when I'm doing my tutorials, my second screen for the computer when I'm doing work, and then that links up to the camera so that I can see what I'm doing while I am recording. And then there's a shelf back there so that I can have a little bit more space to move. And then here is what I've been working on lately, so you guys can see that quickly. It's really cool. Then you can see I keep 2 bins back there because you need that many bins when you're doing this sort of stuff. Then this is my display shelf. You can see I have a few things here. I have my cherry blossom collar, my I do believe this is my primitive necklace, my faux malachite necklace, and my snowflake necklace. And then I keep the bracelets over here and some other extra little bits and pieces. Okay, and then down here I keep things like my to sell box. And this is where I keep things like my bracelets, they are on the Etsy shop, my necklaces, my beads that I'm busy stashing, this, and my collars. So that's kept down there. Then over here is where I keep the stuff that I still have to release the tutorials on, and then I will either put them in my necklaces or I'll take the beads off and I'll destash them. So you can see here are a few things that will be released very soon. My red tiger eye lariat necklace, can't quite see it in there. I've got both of them in there. Just some other bits and pieces, so you guys can look forward to that. Then over here is my to be finished box. So this is where I keep my stuff that I haven't quite finished it yet. So you can see here these have been sanded, but I haven't put a coat of varnish over them just yet. And here's some things that need to be sanded. This one actually needs a backing on it. Some more pieces to be sanded. These ones need to be antiqued. So this is where I keep my projects that I haven't quite finished yet. Then over here is a very large box, quite heavy. And this is where I keep all of my ideas that I want to be turning into tutorials. So things like faux stones. I've sorted it out into seasonal things, so I've got a winter, summer, spring and autumn box. Then I've got general ideas, I've got ideas for easy projects, and so there's a whole bunch in there. Now if you want to see all of them, and I'll go through every single one, you'll want to sign up as a $15 patron. There's quite a few things there that I'll be including in the studio tour, so I won't be including that sort of information on YouTube, but if you are a $15 patron, you'll want to go and check that out, because I will have that on Patreon. And then here's another one that I won't go too in depth with, but I will show on Patreon. this is my ideas where I'm messing around with experiments that I think would be quite interesting. So I haven't got them right yet and things like that, so these are still a work in progress, and then once I'm happy with them, they move into this box. Then over here, right next to my desk, is where I keep quite a few of my tools, and it is also a spot for the cat, as you can see. So if you happen to hear her during my tutorials, I do apologise, but she's refusing to give up that spot. So over here is where I keep my clay, and I've got a Kato, a Primo Metallics and Translucents, and a Primo Opaque. I need to relabel this one. Then in this drawer over here, I have my souffle. This one is where I keep my Fimo Professional. This is where I keep my Primo. And I've got a few open packets in here, but most of it's all sorted by colour. And the same with the Kato, a few open packets, but all of it is sorted by colour so I can see where everything is. And then this is where I keep all of my main blocks of clay that I can't actually fit into a box, so you'll see that they're in packets and things, but it's also where I keep my spare large blocks. So I'll have a black, a white translucent, translucent, silver, pearl white, and that means because those are the colours that I use the most. Then I also keep my Kato concentrates in here, and I also have this air dry clay that I want to try out at some point. So that's it for that one over here. And then over here is where I keep my souffle box and my other Kato box. And then my Sculpey 3, which was bought as an experiment to see what I could do with it, and if it really was as bad as everybody said, it is. So that's been left for a while. Then I've got my Cernit box and my Fimo Professional box. And then my liquid clay is kept in a basket up here. And then moving on to the next drawer, this is where I keep my Prism Pebeo paints and also the skins that I've made from them. See that? And these are only the Prism ones, and then I need to swap these drawers around, but this is where I keep my Moon ones. And then with all of the Prism Pebeo paints, I like to pour them into these caps, because these caps have a bezel. And so with the Prism and the Moon ones, I pour it into the cap, let it sit, and then that means that I can see what it looks like when it is dried. Then one drawer up, this is where I keep my alcohol inks, and these are only the Adirondack ones, and I've tried to sort them out, but being alcohol inks, it's a little hard to sort out, so this is probably as sorted out I'm going to get. Then here I have all of my waxes, like my Gilda's paste, Rub and Buff. This is something that I got from South Africa that I still want to test on the clay. And Relief paste. I tested this out and it is compatible with the polymer clay. Then here's where I keep a bunch of my paints. And so I've got Dazzling Metallics, Martha Stewart ones. Let's see, got Deco Art Americana, and then also back here I've got some that I bought from South Africa, and these are chalk paints, which are quite interesting, and I want to see if I can buy these online at some point. So that's the one drawer. Then another drawer down, this is where I keep my artist paints, as you can see. It's also where I keep my acrylic skins. I've been playing around with acrylic pours. I haven't been very successful so far, but I've only tried it out a few times. Then I've got some other things like these ones. These are really nice metallic paints, and I've got a few of them. And I've got some airbrush paints. I've got some more artist paints back here, and just some little, this is more of a bits and pieces paint straw. Anything that couldn't fit into the other one goes in here. Then moving on to the next drawer here. This is another bits and pieces drawer where I keep stamps that I've mounted onto wooden blocks that I thought would work better that way. And some other little bits and pieces, stamps that I have collected over time. And then here is an embellishments drawer where I have things like embossing powder, micro beads, wax over here, glitter, ice resin, glass glitter, ice resin opals, and some mica flakes back there. Then here's another embellishment drawer where I basically keep paper, and these pieces of paper are textured, and so I like to use them on my beads and things like that, and I'm sure you've seen them in my projects sometimes. And here's another embellishments drawer where I keep things that would be used in steampunk projects, so things like cogs, maybe flattened out bead caps, clock faces, and so on. And then here's where I keep all of my inks, so you can see there stays on ink back there, distress oxide, distress ink, archival ink, an embossing pad so that I can use that with my embossing ink, embossing powders, Liquitex ink, there's a memento one here. I wanted to test how it worked on polymer clay. It doesn't work very well, but I'm going to play around with it, see what I can do with it. Then I have my mica powders, so here's where I keep the Pearl X, my pastels and some eyeshadow. And then here's where I keep my larger pots of mica powders and some eyeshadow and some pan pastel and an open eyeshadow pot back there. And down here, this is my big textures drawer, which is made up of textures basically that either didn't work or I want to play around with and see if I can make a better one basically. So you can see I've got a whole bunch in here, so these are all my tests basically. Then in here I keep some other little bits and pieces like these texture plates and some cutters with the plungers. If you've seen my I do believe it was my metal leaf project, I will have used these. And then here's where I keep my molds, and these are the ones that I'm not quite happy with, they didn't work out so well. These are the ones that I am happy with, so you can see that they came out quite nicely. So I've got a few of those in there. Then in here is where I keep all my bracelet blanks, collar blanks. I also keep things like photo frames or mirrors in here if I want to decorate them. Then here is another embellishments drawer where I basically keep things like stones and shells that I've all sorted out into pots. See a whole bunch in there. And then here is where I keep my gelato. So you can see. And I also have this little list here where I basically write down the name and then I do a little colour smudge so that I can see what it looks like. So that's it for these drawers over here, and it's nice to have it so close to the desk because it just makes it easier for me to reach things. Then moving on to the middle over here, which is basically the exact same as the last house. I have everything up top here, like my 99% alcohol, my alcohol blending solution, brushes, pencils, rulers, scissors, things like that. Then here are where I keep my other alcohol inks like the Pinata and Patina, and I also keep the Adirondack mixatives up here, so the silver and gold things. Then in here is where I keep my alcohol pens, and they're sorted by colour, so I go from brown to red, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink, and then another pink and some clear. So I've got those all organised into colours so I can see what's going on there. Then here's where I keep nail files, some makeup sponges, a digital scale, some cutters that I use in my stamps to make them nice and square, a ball tools, so you can see in there. I've got a bunch in there, so I just like to keep it in there. Magnets for fridge magnets, and tape. Then here is where I keep carving tools, like these wooden tools for wood carving, rubber tools, and then these metal ones, like these ones for pottery, and then other ones that you can use in mukumegane. Shaping tools, and these are plastic, and then piercing pins, some of my logos that I've printed out, and some letter stamps. This is where I keep my cutters for when I'm doing my stamps, and this is where I keep my ball tools for the most part. Okay, and down here I have my textures, and so you can see that I have the Sculpey ones here, Christy Friesens in there, Helen Brails, and then Lisa Pavelka's. Then I have some more textures in here. I have Melanie Mules, and then some sponges, and some core rollers. And then here are just textures that I've basically picked up around the house. So some more sponges, some sandpaper, some rollers, some sponge, some rollers off of eBay, another polymer clay stamp, cork, lace, all sorts of things. Then here I keep my transfers, some templates from Lucy Clay, stencils, and all of the eBay stencils as well. And then here is where I keep my silk screens. So I've got a Moiko, this is one from, let's see, Cindy Holt, Helen Braille, and then Create Along. And then over here is where I keep my metal cutters. In here is where I keep my foil, dichroic, and metal leaf. And then in here is where I keep my eBay stamps, and I've just popped them all into little bags. So this is where I keep all my snowflakes, this is all the butterflies, here's all the flowers, and so on. And then here's where I keep my moulds, and you can see these are the cabochon moulds that I've been using. And then I've got some eBay moulds. And then finally in here is where I keep my makeup sponges, some plastic sheets for when I want to store polymer clay for a short amount of time on my desk, or if I want to prevent rippling on the pasta machine. And then this is where I keep my mica powders that I am selling on my Etsy shop. Okay, and then down here is where I keep my UV lamp, and over here, and then over here I have some more little bits and pieces up top here. This is where I keep my ice resin plunger and the extra ice resin, Tiny Pandora's Deep Shine, this UV resin that you can get from China, and Lisa Pavelka's Magic Gloss, Lisa Pavelka's Polybonder, Repel Gel, and Poly Paste. And then I have some other bits and pieces like salt and toothpicks, and paper punches. Then in here is where I keep all my blades. Here's where I keep all my drills. This is where I keep my rollers. So you can see there's quite a few things in here. I also keep my Kato marks in here, my snake roller, my brayer, and some cards there to help me if I don't have a pasta machine. Then this is where I keep my hollow bead maker, and some cotton balls to make hollow beads, and some wooden mandrels that I've cut out so I can use them for bead caps and things like that. Okay, and then if we go down here, this is where I keep all my pots and things for when I want to make polymer clay pots or if I want to dome something. This is where I keep my Dremel, other power tool and glue gun. And then I keep some cling wrap, baking paper and foil, some more tape. This is my sanding drawer, so it's got polishing papers and things like that in there. My polyfast machine, and this is where I keep my heat gun and varnishes. So these are the varnishes that I use. I also use Varathane, but that's kept separate. So I've got the spray gloss varnish, Pearl X, Renaissance wax, Min wax, and Liquitex matte varnish. And then those are the ones that I use, plus the resins that I showed earlier and Varathane. And then over here is where I keep my nice big roller. I also keep things for my photos, so we've got some felt pads here, some cardboard, some paper that looks like wood, so it's scrapbooking paper, and I've got a whole bunch in here. Then these are where I write down my ideas and things, and then these are pots filled with stones that I want to do photo tutorials on them. So if you want to see those, you'll have to sign up at the $15 level as well, so that you can see what stones I have in these buckets. There are 6 big buckets of them, so you can see exactly what I'm doing there. And then this is where I keep my designs for upcoming stamps that I'm making. Down here is where I keep some wooden blocks that I use as cane benders and cane squares as well. Then this is where I keep disposable gloves, wet wipes and some paper on hand. It's also where I keep my magazines, and I also have some books back here, 2 of Donna Cato's books and this faux book back here. And then I have some skewers, so you can see here. I also have a grater, and then the Lucy Clay slicer, the mammoth machine and the extruder in the box. And here's where I keep my Varathane, and I keep my nail plates here. And then this is a box of jewellery that is not polymer clay, so I've got some resin bits in there, and I've also got some seed beads and things like that. Then here are the projects that failed, and they are polymer clay. This is where I keep my Swelligant. This is my leftover clay box. And then these 2 buckets over here are basically junk beads. And I'll be going through this on Patreon as well, to show you what I've got in here. And I always keep my junk beads. I never throw any of them away anymore, at least. So this is probably saved up over the last 5 years or so. And what I do is when I am not feeling creative and I can't get out of a artist block or something like that, if Pinterest doesn't work or things like that, I generally go and have a look through here and I'll pick out something, so say this, and maybe I like the technique behind it but I just don't like the design. Like this one I think looks too much like a spaceship or something like that, so I would take the technique, maybe change the colours, maybe change the design a little bit, but I'll be able to take this, make something with it, and usually that gets me out of my creative block. And so this is why I always keep my leftover beads. And you should too, because usually there's some good ideas, but they just need a little bit of refining. So that's it for the middle part over here. Then next to the desk I have a shelf with all the extra little bits and pieces. Up there is a display cabinet that I need to fill. Here is where I keep my stamps and my moulding compound. So you can see I have two types here. Then this is something that will be a surprise. I'm planning to release it in the next few months or so. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it is a surprise. And I'm sure you guys will like it. Then over here is where I keep my folders. So some of them have just some extra blanks for me. Some of them have some mica powders in them. Some of them are where I keep my colour recipes. I also keep record of some of my techniques, like this is my veneer techniques. You won't be able to see any in there. I'll probably go through these on Patreon as well. This is some more colour recipes. This is where I keep all of my faux chips for the most part. I take a little piece of the technique and then bake it so that I can keep it. This is my Kato colour chips. And this is my paper templates that I cut out before I was making cutters. And this is finally where I keep all of my cane chips, so there's a little feather back there. And then here is where I'm doing something interesting. I'm not sure when I will release it or anything like that, but I'm basically making swelligant recipes in there. Then down here are some bits and pieces. These are stamps to release. So you can see I have a coral one here. I have a tiger. It's an image stamp. I have a shark tooth. I've got another steampunk one here. So those will be released in the next few weeks to months. This is where I keep my resin mats. So you can see I have the solid one here, and then I have the silicone ones. And I'm now selling these on my Etsy shop because they're so nice to use. Then here is where I keep all of the colour recipes that I have mixed up. And my faux canes and sheets. And I'll be going through this on Patreon too. I keep my bags in here, and then some Armorall and Floetrol in there. And that's basically it for all of the polymer clay stuff. You can see that you don't need a lot of space to fit it all. So the extra bits and pieces are things like my light box and the props that I need for it. So you can see this is where I keep all of my forest based props, ocean based props, and then this is all driftwood. And these are all stones that I use in my props. And this is the light box, and I will show you how I have put this together on Patreon too. Then over here is where I keep all of my stuff that needs to be taken, needs to be put up on Etsy, organised. So these are things like my cutters that I've already put up on Etsy. So these are the ones that I use in my tutorials. These are the sort of things that I need to take photos of and put up on Etsy. So you can see this is where I keep my jewellery that needs to be either taken apart or taken photos of, and other little bits and pieces that I want to put on the shop. This is where I have already taken the photos, but I need to put it up into listings on Etsy. And so you can see it's all nicely organised in there. And then over here is where I keep my stones. And you can see I have a whole bunch here. And it's also where I keep my oven and other little bits and pieces, like my Dremel stand, some extra pasta machines if I run out, some tiles, here are some extra baking things, and here are some extra things for the Dremel and some pots and things. So that's basically it for the studio really. There's not much more than there was last time, but I will be showing you guys a few more things on Patreon, so if you are patrons, head over there and you will be able to see quite a few things that I didn't include on this video. And I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that it maybe gave you some ideas on how to set up your own studio, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.